Is because of the delegated nature.
Maggie Barry.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. When we look at Part 3 of the State Sector and Public Finance Reform Bill, it falls really into three main areas. Subsidiary reporting, where the reporting regime focuses on a group reporting and auditing with the Minister of Finance, and that group will have the power to require reporting from any member of the group. So that's a tightening up of those procedures, Mr Chair. This group reporting change does not apply, however, when you've got school boards or tertiary education institutions where they have an investor or a multi-parent subsidiary. Enough really said on that aspect of it. Another aspect is greater reporting flexibility, which is going to provide more meaningful information. And this is the area that my colleague, John Hayes, dealt with a little bit earlier on the reporting changes at the start of and at the end of each year. So those are not dissimilar to other provisions in other acts. But it is on the first aspect of Part 3 of the amendments to the Crown Entities Act 2004 that I wish to concentrate on my call, and that's the collaboration with other public entities. Now, there are three. The thing about this bill is that it amends the collective duty of statutory Crown entity boards relating to how the board is to perform its functions. So, under these changes, boards will be required to ensure that the entity collaborates with other public entities where practicable. And that's a very important measure that comes up in these amendments because it really helps break down the silo approach to providing services, which this government has identified as being part of the problem with public services. So we have a situation where we need to have these entities working much more in combination with other agencies. And the limitation of this phrase, where practicable, really gives the board gives them the ability rather to determine the efficiency and the effectiveness of collaboration with other agencies in any given situation. And that once again, Mr Chair, is in keeping with the overall policy of our government that there are directions to support a whole of government approach, and this whole of government approach is very much at the heart of this piece of legislation and at the heart of Part 3. So in particular to smaller groups of Crown entities than currently, there's also going to be a broader range of objectives, including to secure economies or efficiencies, something we commend. Also, to develop expertise and capability, who amongst us would argue with that, to ensure business continuity, or to manage risks to the government's financial position. So these are all very sound policies and philosophies which underpin the legislation and which are spelt out in this amendment. The amendments will also make the use of government directions more useful and more selective, but in a way that respects the entity's legal separation and arm's-length relationship. I mean, these directions to entities will not come, as they have in the past, from public servants in part, but they will come much more appropriately from the Ministers of Finance and of State Services. So those are the three main elements of Part 3 of the amendments to the Crown Entities Act 2004. I'm not going to dip into the petty politics, as others have in this House before me. I will leave my call at that. Thank you, Mr Chair.
I call Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Chair. It's fantastic to be present in the House.